Hey everyone, it's Haley. It's so good to reconnect. Happy midsummer, happy summer solstice, happy almost Capricorn full moon. I feel like it's such a beautiful time of year. Just the solar energy, the days are so long. It's just like a very nice vibe. So in this video, we're gonna talk about the energetics of the Capricorn full moon, which is gonna go exact on the 21st of June. And this is a really interesting case because we're actually gonna have two Capricorn full moons this year. One is gonna be exactly a month later on July 21st. So this is a very interesting time. Just make sure if you have a journal tracking kind of experiences that are coming up from the 21st of June to the 21st of July, because you might see some sort of like full circle kind of completion of some sort of theme in your life. If you know the Capricorn house in your natal chart, definitely keep an eye on that. But if you don't, it's all good. So in this video, we're gonna talk about some of the themes for this Capricorn full moon, and then also we're gonna pull some tarot cards just to get a collective tarot reading to specify some of the messages for us as we work with this energy. So yeah, as I said, the first of two Capricorn full moons, and the first one is going to happen at 1 degree of Capricorn close to the ascendant. And then the second one in July is going to happen near the end, like the very last degree of Capricorn. So again, we kind of see this completion of this cycle. And some of the themes that I kind of pulled were specifically related to our relationships with other people and the ways that kind of superficial niceness or decorum, or kind of the ways that we've been conditioned to kind of pretend like everything's okay and to show up and put on this facade and kind of do this little song and dance of like, look, functioning personhood. These are the ways that I kind of show that I'm okay, and that we kind of show each other that we're okay with all these kind of like social rituals. But it's kind of like surface level, so it kind of limits the depth and the real intimacy that we can have when we truly are honest. And it's such a buzzword and it's overused and maybe it's diluted its meaning, but authenticity and just kind of the ways that niceness and people pleasing and having all these facades of being okay kind of interferes with our ability to truly feel like we belong and that we're seen by other people. So the moon at 1 degree of Capricorn, like all full moons, it's opposing by exact degree and by exact sign. The sun and the moon are opposite, creating this kind of full illumination, this full moment of kind of reckoning or epiphany or drama or this boiling point in this lunar cycle. And so the moon is going to be very close to conjunct Venus in Cancer in the 7th house. So again, kind of this theme of this is a really nice energy to kind of like be around loved ones, to kind of share a meal, to experience these really long days, but kind of pulling back the layer a little bit deeper again, because this full moon is going to be happening on Friday, which is Venus Day, which is lovely. And then because the sun is conjunct Venus, it's really important to look at the Venusian houses in the chart to see kind of what's going on planetarily in Venus's houses to get an understanding of maybe some of the themes. So first we have Taurus, which is the first Venusian sign, and we see that there's two very disruptive planets currently in Taurus at the time of this lunation. Mars, which is very much that like bull in the china shop energy, which I think I made a video last year about like the Libra full moon, I believe, kind of talking about that Taurus, like what happens when Mars goes into Venus's sign. Sometimes we get this kind of like upsets of social rules or people kind of like misbehaving. And then we also have Uranus, which is like a very revolutionary planet, kind of upset, that kind of disruptive energy. And then the other Venusian sign, Libra, we have currently the South Node there, which can be also this kind of like intense revision or release around specifically, like I said, the themes of niceness and kind of keeping the peace. Yes, so kind of this full moon is inviting us to kind of rethink the ways that we're engaging. And then also the chart ruler, because we have Capricorn rising and we have the moon on the ascendant, and it's, again, this kind of adds this kind of extra flavor of with the sun being close to the descendant, it's setting near sunset. The lunation is going to go exact at 9:08 p.m. Eastern on the 21st. And so this kind of like setting of this old mode of kind of relating on the surface and maybe the ways that it's connected to the past, connected to our ancestry, the ways that we were kind of raised in silently dysfunctional households, or households that looked really good on the outside, which I feel like is all families. Then there's always some extra layers of, with the North Node and Chiron in the 4th house in Aries, kind of the need to know where we come from, to feel like we belong, and to re-examine those kind of dysfunctional, even violent or harmful kind of patterns from our upbringing, and the ways that that kind of fundamental lack of embodied safety kind of replicates in all of our relationships and the ways that we show up, because we feel like we need to fit in and we need to act this certain way in order to get love. In the way that kind of acknowledging that or confronting that can remodel or kind of completely restructure the way that we meet the world physically, with a more of a feeling of internal safety. And another big theme, because the chart ruler is Saturn, and Saturn is currently in Pisces in the 3rd house in this lunation chart. And this kind of, especially because Neptune, let me talk about this for a second. We're gonna talk about Neptune. So Neptune for a while has been transiting Pisces, and it's currently at the very last degree, 29 degrees of Pisces at the time of the Cap full moon. And I feel like this really speaks to this kind of collective journeying, lesson, learning that we've been on about having relationships and exchanges that are energetically clean. And what I mean by that kind of sounds a little woo-woo, on the surface, is knowing and trusting that when someone is offering their time, their assistance, their love to us, that there isn't some sort of hidden agenda. There isn't some sort of you owe me, or which can lead to this kind of like passive aggression or resentment building up because we've been giving in a way that doesn't honor our own needs, and this kind of like artificial or superficial generosity where it's kind of a show. And then we kind of have this like psychological warfare going on, like not knowing, like having this struggle, like if I give, then I owe. And so another theme around this full moon is potentially kind of reversals around generosity. Specifically, people can, when these kind of like painful points get touched, it can be kind of like, I don't want to give anything at all, I'm becoming very closed. Or on the other end of the spectrum, just like suddenly, in a really beautiful way, kind of letting love in, and knowing that when we have these energetic exchanges with other people that are clean, meaning we know that we can respect our own boundaries and exchanges, and so we can, when we are able to give, we give, and we know that that will be reciprocated by people and community who also respect us and who also give out of the goodness of their heart and this kind of overflow. And so these are not small themes, kind of restructuring the ways we're kind of being invited to really revision, and potentially through kind of disruptive personal exchanges with a loved one or a stranger, kind of the ways that we kind of overgive or show up in a way that doesn't honor what's really true, and then kind of get angry or resentful because it wasn't true. So then we can project that onto another person. And so kind of just watching this kind of dance play out over the next month. And I love this aspect. We're going to talk about this. So again, the chart ruler Saturn in Pisces is a really close to exact trine within 2 degrees of the asteroid goddess Pallas Athena in the 11th house. And this is such an intelligent archetypal kind of goddess energy of kind of like revisioning kind of this like hawk's eagle's eye perspective, being able to zoom out and really get into touch with the kind of energetic or literally the personal, the emotional resources that we need in order to expand into this vision of this like more communal, more mutually dependent, beautiful like relationships that are much more resilient and much more honest and much more true. And so having this like visionary perspective to kind of zoom out, and kind of this like very emotionally intelligent undercurrent of energy where we can really have these really beautiful, meaningful connections with people. So again, a beautiful time to gather with loved ones. Keeping in mind that, the triggers, they might come up with the typical full moon stuff. We can expect that, but also this really seeing into this whole new potential. And there's a few more things I want to talk about before we start shuffling the tarot. Yes, so Mercury is going to be squaring the north node of the moon. Again, this kind of like very strategic mental mapping energy of kind of getting like more of an intuitive sense of like the resources that we need and the ways that we can kind of leverage the resources of our community specifically to kind of, maybe networking is the wrong word because it feels a little, again, that old, what's the word? Kind of that old paradigm of like mining resources from people versus like just this more organic, like there's so much value in our communities and we can give in this way that doesn't feel so manipulative, sort of. And so, but also keeping in mind that with this square, like overthinking energy, the lunation is also squaring Neptune. So if we notice kind of some anxiety coming up, to just, you know, focus on the classics of like nourishment, making sure we're eating regularly. With hard lunation aspects to Neptune, we don't want to be like fasting generally. We don't want to be going long periods without eating. We don't want to be doing super like rigorous energy draining things. So focusing on nourishing physically, emotionally, being around people who feel very safe if that is possible. Also, like maybe immersing yourself in a body of water. There's a huge tradition that I've recently been learning about in terms of the summer solstice and midsummer and kind of the shift in the quality of water that is kind of in the folklore and kind of in the tradition, like, I don't know, pagan oral traditions and practices and rituals around water being kind of associated with death at the beginning of June and then kind of going through the whole month, and we kind of see it become more of this like rejuvenating, life affirming thing by the end of June, which is super interesting. So yeah, taking a mindful shower if you're not near an ocean to just kind of wash off the last month, the last lunar cycle. Okay, so now I think we're gonna shuffle the tarot to get some collective messages. As always, feel free to comment down below about how you're feeling this energy. What are some of the themes that we could see rising up in the collective around this first Capricorn full moon on June 21st? What is some of the energetics surrounding this Capricorn full moon for us and our relationships? Okay. Thank you. We'll get one more. What is the potential? Thank you. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is so funny. When I was thinking about this video, the card that came to mind was the Three of Pentacles, and that did come out. This like very beautiful new way of relating, to kind of gather, to build something new, to be in community with others. Okay, but some more difficult cards did come up, which, you know, I was kind of expecting with these kind of lunations across the first 7th house axis, some kind of more reactive, kind of defensive ways of defending our ideas or feeling really attached to them. So you can see with the Knight of Swords kind of going into this like crusade of like needing to fix. Okay, so there is an astrologer, I believe it was Jessica Lanyadoo, who's really lovely. You should probably check her out. She also has a podcast, but she talks about Capricorn on the angles. So the 1st, the 7th, the 10th, and the 4th house as kind of this like axe energy, or like, no, she describes it as a hammer, like being the hammer, and kind of being in relationships where it can kind of like come down kind of hard. Like this is right, this is wrong, good, bad, like any tendency to kind of do this really hard reading about something or to kind of like try to enforce it on other people. And that's kind of more of that old kind of paradigm or mode of being. Whereas the new one that I kind of see in this lunation chart is a whole revisioning of a way to be in relationship with other people, where we're not feeling like the basis of our relationships is our ideas and needing to prove them, which gets really exhausting with is it the 9 or the 10? 1, 2, 3. The 10 of Wands, this completion of this cycle of pushing so hard to make people understand. Okay, yeah, that feels really right. And the Page of Swords also being in the reverse position, with this kind of like inability to prove ourselves anymore, or to make people understand where we're coming from, or to kind of fight in this like really exhausting way of the Wands and the Swords together. It feels like this exhaustion around the need to communicate constantly, like to tell people who we are. And the 3 of Wands, really beautiful, looking out into this new direction of this way to be with other people in community, in a way where all of us have these kind of like, we're all contributing via just, again, it's gonna sound woo-woo for some, but just the energy, the kind of the essence of the person, and being able to kind of just be together, maybe in silence, sharing a meal, and be able to receive the transmissions of the people that we love through their presence, and through that natural kind of charisma of people. And sometimes it's more of a quiet charisma, and it takes a little while to understand. But again, looking into this kind of like bird's eye, this reminds me of the Saturn trine to Pallas Athena, of like, okay, what are all of the resources that are really here? What are all of the insights and the tools that I truly have that I could really rely upon to kind of let go of this old stuff, which, because it came up pretty prominently, yeah, we can expect maybe to be more confronted with this over the next month, of the ways that we still try to make people like us, or to make ourselves known, to be like, let us, if I explain myself enough to you, then you'll know where I'm really coming from and you'll like me. Which it runs really deep with this, like, I need to be good, this kind of black and white. If you know I'm good, then you'll love me. That feels like that's maybe at the core of this. And so being able to source love and safety from within. So again, the quality of clean energetic exchanges comes up, so we don't need to prove, because we know that the community that really we belong to, and that we belong ourselves to as a verb, that is a way that we can truly honor all of the gifts that we bring to the table with, figuratively speaking, and then can build something really beautiful and really, as you can see with this, like very structurally sound, by not having to do this thing alone with all these like lone figures doing hard things and racing in and fighting, but coming together in this other way. Okay, and I think just for fun, we're also gonna get a animal spirit card. This is Kim Cran's The Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck, if you're interested. It's really beautiful. Okay, so working with this first Capricorn full moon, what is our animal guardian that can support us as we navigate this really beautiful restructuring and re-envisioning of being in community, of honoring our needs? Thank you. Beautiful, we have the tiger. Okay. I love this, just this like very powerful lunar feminine energy. So you can see the crescent moon. As I'm filming this video right now, we have a beautiful crescent moon going on in Leo. I love this. So I think I'm gonna read the card to get us a message. Okay, so the tiger represents, according to this book, lunar force, ease and darkness, and feminine energy. So she writes, the tiger hunts at night, at one with the silence, fearing nothing. This card reminds us to take in the wild darkness, to allow the lunar forces to soothe and heal our spirits. Sensuality, receptivity, and devotion are all heightened in the midnight hour, and the tiger takes advantage of these boons. Spend some time in silence this evening, drinking in the potent calm. There is nothing to fear in the stillness except the awakening of your own power. So when the tiger is in balance, they are passionate, strong, and sensual. When they're out of balance, they're overstimulated, which kind of speaks to that Mercury square to the North Node and the Neptune energy of feeling kind of like thrown a little bit. And to bring it to balance, this is so beautiful. Candle gazing. So that's also kind of a practice around midsummer, is to, you know, gather around the fire. So that could be really fun to have a bonfire or just like light a candle by yourself and kind of direct your energy into this place of, I love just some of the words that really stuck out were devotion, receptivity. Yes, that's kind of at the core of what I was saying about when we're in community with others in this new way, where it's kind of in devotion to the good of the community as an entity, as a living being that's in flux, that's an ecosystem of care and mutuality and support, versus kind of these like resources to mine or to tap, kind of being in devotion to the community as its own thing, rather than what we can get from it. And the ways that when all of us are putting in our care and our contributions, the well-being and the resource, so to speak, of the community exponentially like expands out in concentric circles as far as the universe is deep. So yes, with a full moon happening on the summer solstice, so again, just kind of thinking about the axes of the year, peak light. So the days are the longest, then after this, there's gonna be sort of an increase in darkness until the light and the dark are exactly equal on the autumn equinox. And then the darkness is growing and growing and growing until peak darkness, the winter solstice, and then growing again. And so kind of this like very, and there's different traditions around kind of ascribing gender to the sun and the moon, but generally, what I'm aware of is usually we think of the diurnal, the solar forces as being more masculine, and then the lunar forces being more feminine. And so with a full moon happening across the Capricorn Cancer axis, which are both signs that are more yin, they're more feminine signs, but it's happening at peak light. So that's kind of a confusion of like, is it more masculine out doing things, or is this more like a feminine subterranean inner experience? And I think especially for this first Capricorn full moon, for the second one in a month, different story. It's gonna be conjunct Pluto, more of like an external visible quality, but this one, I feel like with the tiger, it is more of an inner experience of kind of getting in touch with more of these, like I said, the old childhood programming and the old maybe trauma around the ways that we haven't been seen or loved or accepted, or the rejection that happened in friendships in the 7th grade, like that sort of stuff, and the way that we can hold ourselves in that kind of quiet night energy of being able to accept and then to come out and to be in community with others, and not even having to like heal before we kind of re-enter the group, but to kind of have this kind of overlapping thing with the sun and the moon happening, which is really beautiful and maybe kind of subtle. So I think that's gonna wrap it up. It's been a long video. Hopefully you grabbed a tea or some refreshing summer drink for this chat. So sending all this community so much love. Again, feel free to kind of start a dialogue, a conversation in the comments with each other, kind of chat about how this season is going for you. So lots of love. Mwah, Haley.